Okay, and we're back. That's right. This time we're stacking the deck with just two stacking the decks with two guys, just a couple of guys. It's Easton and Edward, or
We're doing
Ed,
it.
whatever you want to call me. Kurt, he's been incapacitated. He was at a insane clown posse rally for the past 3 days. Hanging out with the Juggalos, and he said he just couldn't make it to the podcast this Sunday. So
Couldn't do it.
yeah, he has church to go to atone for his clown sins.
It's unfortunate. It is unfortunate, but we will do our best to fill in the gaps where Kurt has left us to fend for ourselves, and we will be giving you all the most important TCG news.
Yeah,
demand.
Yeah, finally I can cook. Now I can say whatever I want. Kurt's been holding me down, man.
Yeah, he's like, don't say that.
Don't say that. Yeah. I said, okay. Now I'm time. Now it's time to say some really salacious stuff.
Yeah.
But all jokes aside, this week I think it feels pretty light. We don't have any big Metazoo news, right? So I'm just gonna lead off with that. The vibe right now is just sit and wait. Some crickets. I guess the biggest news for our Metazoo fans is that there's the first Miami Collecticon. There's going to be no packs for that, right? No con packs. How do you feel about that, Easton? You're going to be attending, right?
Yes, this is terrible.
Terrible. So the way I feel about that, I know for sure. Well, not know for sure, but I feel strongly that even if they said, hey, no con packs, they're still going to do something that's going to generate, or they have to, right? Something crazy that's going to generate some level of FOMO for people that were like, oh, I should have went after all. And then some folks are going to maybe be a little salty about that too, though, right? But that's classic Metazoo fashion as far as I'm concerned. I hope they do that. I hope they make people feel bad for not going.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I mean, we gotta have something, because if not, then the con season is not starting on a good foot. Because that'd be unfortunate. But just to see it will be good enough. But I'm disappointed if they don't have anything, because it's almost in the same vein as like Metazoo towards the end. It's like you give us these timelines, you're selling us on these big dreams, and then you can't feel what's going on here.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the volume chat wise in the Metazoo main Discord's super low. Like nobody, just nothing to talk about. So I reckon it'll change once things get closer to launch and maybe the hype machine will start rolling. But right now it's just feeling a little dry. So I don't know.
It's a little bit more than that. It's just I don't know. It seems a little weird because I knew that they were going to have to work to get people's attention, but to see it like where it's at currently, it seems like they haven't done a lot in the meantime to like build it up. Or it just seems like they're kind of like, they've got the product and stuff, but the marketing isn't there. Like what to get the buzz. And I know you have to slowly build it, but it just seems a little off to me, just a little bit.
Yeah, no, I agree. So with that said, I mean, that's all we have on Metazoo. So if you want to stop watching, you can stop watching now.
We're done.
I did want to plug. So like each week we have our new submissions up. So if you have any TCG news, tabletop news, or just anything that's fun that you want to share, by all means, submit some news. It could be even about your favorite color. I'll share your favorite color. Just submit your news and we'll push whatever product or thing you want to share with our audience. But Tuffy, I think 2 weeks ago or so, good old Tuffy, with Lolcow TCG, he submitted some news, and last week's episode was really Metazoo focused, so I feel like we're kind of returning to more of like normal programming. So let me read the backsell to you. So there's been a Lolcow St. Patty's Day TCG X Lolcow Universe release. And to kind of like put that into context, my understanding is Lolcow Universe is like a podcasting. It's like a content platform, and I think run by or owned by Keemstar, and then they've teamed up with Lolcow TCG, which is Sons of Acronia or whatever, Tuffy's project. And anyways, they're collaborating for this release on the 12th. It started on the 12th. Sorry. It's on the front page of their website. Go check it out. It's the Crown bundle. It's $77.77. So it comes with a real 1 gram gold coin. I think that's kind of cool. With real 4-leaf clovers. And they are rewards for anyone that opens the 1-of-1 altcoin card. So not only do you get the 1-of-1 card, but you actually get some real gold potentially.
That's that old Caster Society bundle idea. I mean, it's really great. It really is. If you market it well, it can get the people going. Like I remember UFO when we got that asteroid. I mean, we've had some pretty cool things going with Caster Society and the bundles, and so I'm glad that Tuffy. I don't think that he was taking that, but it's reminiscent of what we used to do. So I like their packaging. Like I think they have the top tier packaging ideation concept to ideation to fulfillment. They have that pipeline down seamlessly, just because the cassette was great. This real 4-leaf clovers and a gold coin, like if that happens, if you open it, like that's super sick. So really big high praises to Tuffy and the team on that, because it's not easy. That stuff costs more. That increases your overhead, because quality and having these type of the packaging and the detail does cost quite a bit more.
Yeah, I think I always like their products. We've said it a million times, their products are great. I reckon they do a good amount of marketing. It's just, as on their own, right? The NES cartridge, all that good stuff. They also had a recent booster pack release, not Horror House.
I was like,
man, I always say it wrong, but that said, Horror House, maybe? I don't know.
Horror House.
Yeah, it's being refreshed with a 24-pack booster box and box topper. So it's going to get its own actual set, which is kind of cool. And they'll go on sale on March 31st for $100 dues, which is $100 price points. Actually, I think that's really where you should be on all these booster boxes.
Nothing more.
Shout out Metazoo on that one, especially if you're 24 packs, but that whatever. Box toppers will include cards such as the original 2023 sample, signature cards, and more. And then they're also doing 2-player starter sets. So they're currently being submitted to the printers this week. They'll be available for pre-order by the end of the month. 2-player starters will also have a bundle option with sleeves and a VHS style deck box. I love that. And VHS packaging and a real playmat. So, and of course the decks will have a rule book and dice. I wonder if the rule book will be legible, or is it going to be super tiny?
Probably. I mean, if anybody or any TCG does the same blunder as Metazoo, then you don't deserve to make it, because that was well documented that rule book was itty bitty.
Yeah. It reminds me of like Zoolander. What is this? A school for ants?
That's an oldie but a goodie.
Yeah. So anyways, that's all cool stuff. Then they're doing the Lolcow Universe Fat Camp, which is happening from 17th to the 28th, with jam-packed action, drama, viral moments, and utter absurdity. That's a good pun. Lolcow TCG will release Fat Camp set of the biggest moments from Fat Camp shortly after Fat Camp concludes. Think of Fat Camp as something similar to Fish Tank, the online show. So I don't know a whole lot about Fat Camp. You know what it does make me think of? It makes me think of that movie Heavyweights.
Heavyweights, yeah. I was going to say the same thing. I'm like, what? This is amazing.
That's another Ben Stiller great.
Yeah, man. Ben Stiller we're on a roll with the Ben Stiller movies here. Dang. He played that, and then he also played in Dodgeball, almost the same kind of character.
It's like the same guy, yeah. The help or whatever. Dodgeball was a great movie too. Maybe we do a Dodgeball podcast.
Yeah.
So, and then Q3, they're releasing their first ever big booster box set with over 150 unique cards. They're going to shake up the industry with never before seen booster boxes that will change the way people think about booster box collectability. I know Tuffy has teased some things regarding that with me. I'm not going to obviously spoil them, but I think there's a lot to be excited about when it comes to that. Surely they'll do a cool little special product release on that one.
I mean, let me see if we could try to pry it out of Ed.
No, it's honestly something I've never heard of or seen before. But yeah,
box full of rocks.
Yeah. Joke box. That'd be kind of fun to see.
Yeah. Okay. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, their production and the quality is always top tier. So I am excited to see it because I had some limited edition stuff out as well as the cassettes for the summertime. So yeah, looking forward to it. Tuffy does a really good job and they keep pushing along and they're doing exactly what every TCG needs to do. Grow organically, stay small, or not stay small, but like just keep your head down and keep chugging along. Don't do a lot of gimmicks. Don't overcommit. Don't go above and beyond. If it's going to blow up your P&L or your budget, just slow and steady. Get through this slow time because it's a slow time for all of TCGs outside of maybe Pokemon. Even we can say Magic. We can say all of them are doing well, but I just think I have a feeling like it's naturally like a slower time for a lot of TCGs. And we know that during the summertime, it gets a little bit slower just because everybody's busy and not a lot of people are at local game stores or playing a lot. So you just got to like ride that wave. And then as you go into the fall, crush it.
Yeah. I think that's really great advice. Honestly, just keeping people engaged is going to be the biggest trick as far as I'm concerned, because people forget, right? Like they move on, they do other things. There's a lot of, card games are not just competing against card games these days. It's everything, right? It's content. It's, even watching movies and YouTube videos. Those are things that you would be doing otherwise, over playing cards in some cases. Maybe not like consciously, but just time is finite. There's only a certain amount of hours in the day. So you got to stay in front of your audience and keep reminding them, hey, here's where we're at. Here's what we're doing. Give them reasons to be excited about your products. And I'd like to see more of that across the board. And I'm sure some of that's going on. I understand that, the big three always have something cool cooking up, and we can touch on some of those here in a moment. But the big three, as in Magic, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, they're just going to keep doing what they've always been doing. That even when we share that news, it's not really like groundbreaking or exciting stuff. It's just kind of is what it is, sort of thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I think the biggest hindrance right now with a lot of the trading card games is that maybe they're worried too much about their competitors, and you just gotta ride your own way, be in your own lane, because everybody's trying to like focus on everybody else, and it seems like it's being more of a distracted than it is maybe like motivation to grow and be more accommodating for your own fandom. Like I don't see anybody doing a step above and beyond to help their fans or to get in places that's more accessible for them or to make themselves grow. It just seems like they're like, oh, I see somebody else doing something, so we should do something. And it's like, hopefully you're being really thought out, which is kind of why with the Metazoo thing, I was like, don't fold on you changing the cart, the box art or anything like that. If your research tells you that this is great, do it. But it seems like you're worried about other people, other games, the fans. Mm-mm.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think Tuffy would mind. I'll use Tuffy. I'll use Lawcow as a case study here a little bit. I'm not going to share their numbers or data or anything, but they've been doing really well sales wise, right? So good growth numbers and things like that. But as your company's growing, as your TCG, as your indie's growing, think about ways to re-engage any of your legacy audiences that have been previously, making purchases with you. So it's like, okay, well, we've seen, I don't know, 20% growth in, based from our last product to this current product. Well, that's great, but of that growth, how much is it new? How much of that is new customers versus recurring customers? And if it's all new customers, then again, going back to re-engaging that old audience, build out segment your email list or some form of communications, and then try to make sure that you have content that's directed towards just the people that have, made a previous purchase. Does that make sense?
Yeah, like you have to have new or new customers, current customers, or people in your life cycle, because eventually it runs out. Like there's only a small portion of the users at this point, players or collectors or investors that they stay around for a very long life cycle. I think I forgot what Magic is. It's normally like, is it 2 years? I forgot the life cycle.
It's 3, I think.
Yeah, 3 years. And so they get you in there, and you're there for effectively 4 sets is what they used to have it for in terms of their old set, how they used to come out with sets. But now, things have changed. And so the life cycle, you'll start to see some of the big dogs change their set structure to match or to maximize how much profit they can get from their ideal customer. So you see Magic, they've been more, I guess, aggressive with their set releases. They also have like a whole bunch of Universe Beyond stuff. They have been pushing a bunch of Commander, EDH, all that stuff. It's because their profile has changed drastically. You're not getting the normal older demographic where you have them playing Friday Night Magic every Friday outside of maybe a couple for holidays, and maybe if they have to take their significant other on a date night on a Friday night. It's changed drastically since then, and so they've amended that up to that point. And so all the new games, you can't use their structure because you don't have any historical perspective. And so if you are a new game, you have to figure out what is your ideal customer profile, what does that look like, and how does that look like for me to develop the game to attain the most revenue from them. And most games aren't doing that correctly. They're just putting out sets. They're not really thinking about that ideal customer profile. And the games that are going to make it and last a long time, they're going to do that.
Yeah, and for me, I think it's like finding a good like product to market fit too. So I think a lot of the approach for any developer or business, we can even just go bigger than cards, but business are like, oh, we want to sell to everyone. Sure, that sounds great, but everyone's not going to be interested in what it is you're selling. And if you're speaking to everyone, you're speaking to nobody, right?
No one.
Yeah.
That's the first rule.
Yeah, I mean, you really got to dial in and say, okay, we want to focus on Tabletop Timmy. And Tabletop Timmy also plays TCGs, but Tabletop Timmy's got more money than the average TCG player. So we want our game to have some of the tabletop elements in it, but still be a TCG. And like from there, you just keep niching down, until you figure it out. All right, this is where we want to be at. And again, even going back to like Metazoo situation, or Meta2, whatever, I'm still like, who's this for? Maybe we'll find out more here soon. I was kind of hoping my takeaway from that video would be a little bit more concrete, but time will tell, I guess.
Yeah. I'm still a little up in the air, but we'll see. I'm going into this new year with a healthy level of optimism, and I think everybody should. It might be some people's jam, it might not be some people's jam, and that's okay. But I think everything deserves a honest shake before we give it too much judgment. And sometimes it might be like artwork. Maybe you just don't vibe with that, and that's a perfectly acceptable reason. But just give it a fair shake.
Yeah, I think there's even going back to the Kickstarter stuff too. I think I think there's still room for Kickstarters to, for these indies to launch on Kickstarter as well. I am thinking more and more though, like the Kickstarter boom days though are kind of behind us. Like to expect the numbers, Maelstrom, Akora. I don't know if anybody remembers Akora, but they raised $250,000 in their Kickstarter. Do you think we're going to be seeing $250,000 numbers on no-name Kickstarters in this current market? Probably not. Maybe you're looking at something, I don't know, maybe more in the mid-range. Like I could see like, $50,000, depending the new games. But even then, I just think it's going to be really hard to differ. It's just getting harder and harder to differentiate yourself. So going back to the whole segmentation thing or whatever, do something different. Whatever you're doing, just do something different and make sure that whatever you're doing that is different is meant for a specific type of people. So that actually goes to like Obscured's, Metazoo, and Cryptid Camp. Like they all three need to be doing something different.
Very much so. And it just seems like they're kind of, I mean, I'm not saying they overlap. I just think that one of them is going to be the game that makes it. And it's almost like crypto, like in this like lull period where things are kind of like uncertain and kind of like spiraling down a little bit. The cream is going to rise to the top and one's going to survive. It doesn't matter about the money. It doesn't matter about the the team or the expectations or the history. One of them is going to make it. And it's the same thing with crypto. Like the good projects, the good tokens are going to survive. And those are going to be the ones where, you should kind of park your money into for the long term. So.
Yeah. I mean, I've said this a million times. I think there's room for all of them to succeed. They just have to be different within their own right. And maybe one's more player focused. Maybe one's more collector focused. Maybe one's more a different type of play style. Maybe like I don't know. How do you want people to engage with your product? Those are all the kind of questions I have. So I'm hoping, again, I hope everybody wins in their own right. Again, even in Metazoo's case, I still don't know what the answer is there, but at which point, in your opinion, should we be seeing this kind of like clarity? Do you think end
of the year?
Yeah. But
I think what?
Well, what I was trying to say is like, should we already be knowing this before the product even launches, or is this something that like, no matter how much due diligence is done, you don't know until the product releases? Do you get what I'm saying?
I think you just don't know until the product releases, to be fair.
Yeah.
I think we'll figure that out a little bit more once the product releases, once we get in our hands, once we get feel the energy, the swell of the crowd and the people. But right now, it's one of those things where it's all speculative. You just don't know. It's everybody, Metazoo has all the hype from the old game, and you have the all-star team, and you have the cards and a very polished up, professional video, and you have another game that feels kind of like old Metazoo. I mean, very much so. Art, feel, everything like that. You have another game that's a wild card, and that might be the one that does it. I mean, that's kind of what you're dealing with, and so you don't get that until you see the cards in hand, until you talk to people, because at this point online, it's just a bunch of passion. Passion don't sell seats in the stadium, and it doesn't bring you money in the cash machine either. Passion is just the driving force that gets you to making something happen. You can have all the passion in the world and it still fail miserably. And I don't hope that for anybody, but I think we've seen it time and time again that there's uber passionate people, but the project just doesn't turn into being revenue stable or revenue neutral. It becomes a debt creator, and then you eventually got to close shop.
Yeah, and this isn't just trading card stuff, but I wonder too, it's like, at some point, when does the company look at things and be like, yeah, this isn't working? Like, do you give it like a 2-year, 3-year runway and say, hey, I mean, even then, or do you just know like that first year, like, okay, this is a dud? Like, again, going back to what I was saying earlier, at what point do you know that your product strategy is just a dookie, right? Like you said after release, but how far after release are you looking at it and you're like, okay, even from like a consumer standpoint, right? I think we're all thinking some of this stuff.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I think normal business, you should want to have it like a 24 to 36 month roadmap or roadway. The problem is that, sometimes things arise, and are you trying to make it a legitimate business? Like, that's the biggest hump that a lot of creators get into, is that by the time I've transitioned it from being an art project to being a business, then I'm like, dang, I'm in the hole so much. Like, imagine like with Nom Nom or another game that raised a good amount of money in the Kickstarter, but the time in between to fulfill the fulfillment not working with one area, you might have paid them, you might not got all your money back, so that eats into your roadway. You still got to eat, you still got to live, and so some people are actually taking time from their 9 to 5 to do this. And so I think 24 to 36 is good, is a good amount, and then you better hope you can be profitable or at least neutral by that time, and then you could start to get to some like revenue generating standpoint.
Yeah, and I want to latch on to that point real quick too, where you're like, hey, these owners try to do everything. And again, this isn't just TCG information or whatever, but I've seen this a million freaking times where the ship has sailed, they haven't done any of their due diligence, and then they come back around, at least from a marketing standpoint, and they come back around asking for services like, hey, I have this problem, can you come fix it? And it's like, well, I reached out like 6 months before, or if not longer, before your product launch, and got nothing from you. But I mean, I'm happy to talk. It's just
right.
Some of that damage has already been done. And
no facts.
This planning process, the whole and again, when we talk strategy, it's not just like, hey, I'm rattling shit out of my brain and putting on a piece of paper and saying, oh, strategy, go do it. It's actually like trying to put some sort of structure to what would otherwise just be like mudslinging, where it's like, okay, we're going to boost a post on Facebook, and then we're going to send out 5 emails in a row in the same week just to remind everybody. And then like none of that stuff works. Okay, it just doesn't.
At all.
And again, I look at a lot of things from like the digital standpoint or whatever. I think when it comes to TCGs, you can't just be in the digital world. You have to be hitting the bricks. I'm saying you need to be at these events, these cons. Even in Metazoo's case, like, I don't know if them just being at Collecticons is actually really healthy. They should be probably branching out to other conventions that aren't just Collecticons. That's my assessment. But
yeah, they got to do the whole gauntlet. They have to do the whole gauntlet.
Mall tour.
They got to get back to the streets, because it's the LGSs. It's the LGSs that it's the toughest for. It's not. It's nothing else. That's what it is. It's the LGSs. It's the player base that's been disenfranchised and done dirty. Like, again, and this is also coming off the heels. Like, we haven't really thought about it, but nobody's gotten their money back. Nobody's gotten paid 1/8 whole. Like, nobody's gotten anything back. And so you
just
have
just a hole.
Yeah, a hole. So at this point, you're fighting against all of that, and your first convention, you don't have alpha packs or anything like that, which, is but you have to deal with all that. You have the same way you bought for $2 million, you bought an IP that you thought you could revive or at least be profitable, because let's just think about this from a business standpoint. If there's multiple people who bought in on this, who split this thing up, in order for them to turn a profit, it's like a house, and you go in on a fixer upper with your friends, and you put in $10,000, and the valuation was $100,000 in total, and all you get it up to $250,000. Well, you've netted 25,000 off of that project.
Yeah, but you're not even counting like time and
energy.
Yeah.
And that's different for everybody who's part of the group. So in reality, it's not I'd say it's a project that they've, or I said 25,000, 15, they've netted 15,000 from that project. Either way, within that piece that I'm saying, that group that's bought in on Metazoo for $2 million, all they got to do is turn Metazoo from $2 million to maybe 5 million.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying that's an easy thing to do, and something to just be like, oh, we can do this in a week. But I mean, they got a star-studded team. They should be able, if there's going to be a group that can do that, it should be them.
Yeah, if they can't, that would be actually surprising to me, because they I mean, a lot of it's just built on industry connections, I feel like. I think at least with their, team comp, they're able to speed run some of the traditional lanes that probably even Metazoo struggled with. The OG one, like knowing your supplier and distribution, and just from a logistics standpoint, supply chain management. And the other aspect with a lot of games or products in general is like, just because you can do fulfillment, just because you can generate revenue, doesn't mean, if you can't actually fulfill on those orders, then you have a negative brand experience, which ultimately like taints everything. Which was Meta One's problem too, right? They had supply chain issues, which led to a negative overall experience, but also kind of fed into the FOMO. At least that's my observation on that.
Yeah. I'm not, I mean, maybe, what's your thoughts? Like, is it, what gives you the thoughts of the FOMO feelings? Like, what's that coming from?
So basically, for me, the FOMO mostly came from, hey, I wanted to compete in events and I needed to make sure I had the cards needed to play in those events. Otherwise, I wasn't going to buy that stuff. I mean, I really wasn't. Don't get me wrong, I like collecting. Collecting's cool, I guess, but I don't get the same satisfaction of like picking through my binder as I do, getting top 16 at a tower, right?
Yeah.
Or I don't know if I answered that right, but I feel like, okay.
That's fair. No, I get that. I rock it when I rock it. No, that's fair. That's completely fair. I mean, hopefully it builds into that. I'm optimistic that it does. The problem is that we're dealing with is that we just don't get everything right now. And we need, in my opinion, we need all of that stuff from the get-go, like, in my opinion.
Well, we'll see what actually happens with all that. I'm trying to pull up a present. I was going to present something, but I don't know, technical difficulties. If you're wondering why I'm looking down. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. So there's some basic math. I don't know. Do you think people would be interested in hearing like what like from more of an analytical standpoint of what I'd be looking at here for success?
Yeah.
Because like, all right, I'll rattle off like some terminology and you can have me explain it or tell me if it sounds dumb or wouldn't really work that well here. But so first of all, I think one thing that these businesses ought to think about or consider is like what's known as customer acquisition cost. So it's how much it costs the company to find a new buyer. And that's a pretty simple, like, equation or number or whatever to do. But how much resources are they spending or putting in to find a new buyer? And I think some of that's factored in with like having an old audience. We're talking about Metazoo here, but maybe this applies to other TCGs too. I reckon other TCGs, they're spending more because they have no brand recognition. They have no brand, right? So, but the inverse of that is like, okay, all brands are built on trust. Trust for Metazoo is like non-existent. So maybe they are actually starting over like a new startup. I don't know, but they have to calculate customer acquisition costs, maybe churn rate.
Explain that to people.
Okay, well, churn rate. So typically, churn rate is it's how quickly. It's really how people are. It's how quickly people are leaving your business, and how does that equate to TCGs? I guess right. Like what? Like how would you calculate churn rate for a trading card game?
You asking me?
Yeah, I guess the
last time that they spend money on a product app over a cycle, over a recorded period, like
over a recorded period. Okay, because I was gonna say that's where I struggle with it because a lot of these folks were using Magic the Gathering as an example here. When I was about to say churn, it's like they don't leave for good. Usually they come back at some point,
yeah,
but that's predicated on the company still existing,
right.
right?
Yeah, and then also you have to have so much historical data to prove that. Like Magic knows that their life cycle is longer than most people's, survivability. Like that's what Magic knows. They know that our fan base will probably be around in our life cycle for longer than another emerging TCG is even alive. Like, so that's why you see when the Pro Tour kind of switched off with Magic and it's changed quite a bit, and people went to what was it? Other TCG. I'm having the right.
One Piece.
No. Flesh and Blood.
Oh yeah.
So like, there's moments where people they have a drop off of certain demographics, like their playing demographic, and that's just because they had like almost a black swan event, which was them changing their Pro Tour circuit. But it was, in the long run, it was more profitable for them to not focus so much on that and not have that much spend and focus more on Commander, where they don't pay their people anything, and they have more players for that than they do their own, like whether it be sealed or draft or standard or anything like that. They literally have more Commander players, and they don't have to pay anything to facilitate that format. So that's why they kind of like switched it off and went to a different structure for like Friday Night Magic and even their Pro Tour circuit. But all that to say is they have a lot of history to where they can know how long people are going to last in the game, where a lot of new TCGs have no history. So they're just trying to get enough base and keep them in long enough to understand how frequently do I need to have a set? When do they need to see new cards? All that information went again into Magic, and they told them, hey, we need to be more aggressive with our sets. We need to be faster with set releases. Instead of it being a quarter, we need to have them maybe every 3 months, every 6, or not 3 months, 3 weeks, or every 3 months, and turning into like 6 weeks, 8 weeks, something like that, and being a little bit more aggressive on that front.
Yeah, and okay, so this is the boring business talk TCG episode.
Sorry.
Yeah, but I think this is good because maybe somebody can learn something if they're a developer or whatever, business owner, entrepreneur in the space. But that's why I think that's what I like about the big three is that they operate like a business, and that's the biggest difference. The TCG that can solve this, that can operate like an actual business, I think will ultimately. I mean, this goes without saying. It's like, oh, the sky is blue, but the indie that can operate the closest to any of these businesses is probably going to see the longest they're going to see longevity, right? They'll exist past the 3-year fall off, right? That's about how much indies have, whether they do or die. Isn't it? I've seen that number thrown around. I don't know.
Yeah, no, you're right. That's a number.
Yeah. some other fancy. I won't throw acronyms at people because I hate that. But the other one is total addressable market. So that's another thing that you need to figure out.
Most important.
Yeah, not just everyone. It has to be. You actually have to do some research and figure out how many prospects do you think even exist right within that profile that you've generated, that you could sell to. So seems pretty simple, pretty easy, but stuff that you should probably have already done before you've even made a product.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Before you've made the product. Don't do it afterwards and then be like, well, we'll just get all these people from all these other indie TCGs, and some people from Magic will come over here, and Yu-Gi-Oh! And One Piece. It never works.
Every damn time.
Every dang time.
From a marketing standpoint, so I'm not just, that's more of my specific domain, but there's a term called marketing efficiency ratio. So that's basically your revenue to ad spend. So you want to figure out how much your company's making and how much ad spend that you're deploying. And as a startup, because these are all startup companies, you need to figure that out sooner rather than later. And you're probably going to lean pretty heavy in the ad spend in the outright because you're just running awareness campaigns, and awareness campaigns typically aren't heavily revenue generating. But at some point you have to start figuring out what that mix looks like. It'd be very surprising to me, and that's the other channel, the channel mix. And by channel, that's another marketing term, but channel is like email, social media, Google. I'm trying to keep these phrases as simple as possible just so that everybody can track, but figuring out your channel mix and how much money you're putting in those channels, so that way you can understand, how much you're making off all of them. Establishing an affiliate program. I think affiliates are really strong within this space.
Very much so.
But you
got to do all of it. You got to do it all.
Yeah, and you can't just sit on your butt and be like, "Hey, we have an affiliate program. Okay, well, who's going to manage it?" Well, we'll do. Tim and R&D can do it. He's in between working on sets, he can do the affiliate program. And we got Mike. He can boost some Facebook posts. So Mike's got that.
This is what most indie TCGs or TCGs in general, their marketing is. It's all right, we're gonna push out a boost on Instagram, on Instagram. Then we're gonna spam the Discord. That's it.
That's it. We did it.
We did it, y'all.
Yeah.
And granted, again, Metazoo was a black swan event because they hit, this, for people that don't realize, for them to catch the boom, the bounce off of the COVID boom, where everybody had money and time, that Pokemon Rip and Chips would be like at an all-time peak high. Them have fairly similar art at the same time, and then them to boost the post to all of us. It was a combo, no combo breaker. Yeah. It was like a like you playing Marvel versus Capcom, and you have like Ryu, Iron Man, and Warhammer, and they
right. And
that's what they
did. Lightning in a bottle. I've always said that's like the best. That is like the number one Metazoo card in my opinion, because it's the perfect metaphor for the whole thing. It's just lightning in a bottle. That's Metazoo.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And most people don't get it as to why it caught everybody by surprise, but it was a black swan event more than any other, and it was successful. But the game ultimately wasn't successful, but they were successful at that time.
Yeah. I don't know if there's I could keep rattling on some of this marketing or business stuff. I don't really know how much our audience really cares or is interested in this. Kurt's not here today again, so we're just like talking less TCGs and more about like marketing. But
Yeah. Now
But
you
I mean,
know.
I think some people value this. And if anybody, by the way, if you are listening and this is of interest, let us know. Or if you have questions, you can shoot me a DM or maybe Easton. I don't know. He's a busy guy, but more than
Nah,
happy to just like
you know.
answer any generic questions as long as it doesn't take too much of my what's left of my mental fortitude.
Yeah, I mean, we're here to help. I mean, as long as we can be of service, and I'm sure plenty of people will have uh questions and concerns and different things like that. We're still somewhat bullish on all the games right now. None of the indie TCGs have really done anything to really outside of like not fulfill stuff. They haven't really done anything. Like we don't have product in hand. That's what will be the biggest telltale sign about all the TCGs. You can only marketing can only help you prior to launch and post launch going in, or really only prior to launch. Post launch, it can help you maybe drive velocity to the product that you already have, but you really have to do all this stuff ahead of time. Like you have to do it, so we won't know how successful the card game will be until we see it in hands, start hearing more people talk about it, and then from there I can give you a little bit more insight into the survivability of a lot of trading card games.
Yeah, marketing's just it's all runway, and the runway's great, but if there's no plane, there's no wheels, there's nothing on the track, then it doesn't mean anything, right? It's like, oh, we built the greatest airport in the middle of nowhere that nobody wants to go to.
Yeah.
That's the way I think about it sometimes. So, by all means, you want to be lockstep with your product. Even if you're a small team, maybe you're 5 guys, right? One of the 5 guys, focus only on marketing, and the other person's only on product. Well, other person's only on R&D, and the other 2, they just high five each other in the bathroom. But
That's pretty much it.
but regardless, figure it out. Anyhow, there is other news in the TCG world. I'm of the opinion, like, I think the news content's kind of interesting, but it's just filler. There's Tarkir or whatever going on for Magic the Gathering. I don't know if anybody cares about that. It's just another Magic set, right?
Another set, per usual.
Yeah. Yu-Gi-Oh! No real news. They crapped out another Maze of Memory type set, and then new Master Duel ban list. And then Pokemon World, nothing too crazy in the Pokemon World, still kind of stocks. TCG Pocket, I think they have like there's currently like a Manphy Snorlax Wonder Pick event that's going on. The Gibble Drop events concludes tomorrow. I think it's funny when they say things like drops when it comes to these apps, like a Pokemon app. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And then ranked matches coming soon, so that's something I guess to care about for people that want to play competitive Pokemon TCG Pocket. So that's the news. Thank you for checking out our TED Talk.
Yeah, we do good work. We'll get back to the fun and the vibes when Kurt is back. We just got a little too nerdy. If y'all have any questions, feel free to message Ed or I. We're here to help and stuff like that. So
just message Kurt, actually.
Yeah, message Kurt and be like, all right, so this total addressable market.
Yeah. How do we calculate that? Well, you see, and then Kurt just lets out a wet fart noise. I'm kidding. I can't wait for him to watch this. Yeah. All right. Well, that's it. That's all I got. Thanks for stacking the deck with us, guys.
Peace, stacking the
deck.com. No, that's giddm.com. Oh, yeah. We're going to have merch soon. So keep an eye out for that.
Wait. Last question, Ed.
Yeah.
Are you going to play the new Metazoo?
If I get a deck in my hand, somebody says, hey, I've been watching the tabletop. I've been watching, I looked through the rule book. It still doesn't mean anything because it's just apparently this is the abridged format. So I don't know how I feel about all that, but
okay.
I'll play it. I'll play it. The real question is, am I going to be buying into it? I'll be buying 2 boxes.
Okay, he's like, oh, keep it light.
Yeah.
Like I said, we need them to only have 500 boxes, small print run.
I know. I said that. Everybody hated me for it. Whatever.
It's okay. They can't make me hate you.
All right. I appreciate it, man.
All right, peace.
See ya.